As an avid Skylanders fan, there is only 2 games out of the entire series that I have never played. Those 2 games would be Spyro's Adventure and Trap Team. I never played Spyro's Adventure because I was too young to play it, as I started playing the series at Giants, but Trap Team I never played because I kind of fell out of playing the game, only picking it back up when Imaginators came out. With these 2 games being long overdue for me to play, there is one that I am platinuming in this video, and if you haven't read the title, you're gonna find out that today I am platinuming. We arrive into Chapter 1, where we first meet Hugo, and we'll see him throughout the rest of the game. He explains to us that the core has exploded, and that we need to save the village. As instructed by Eon, we place down our first Skylander, which in my case was Spyro. We're going to skip around here in the first chapter, as there's not much to really dive into, as this is the tutorial, but we do get some trophies in this chapter. At the section of the tutorial where you find the key in the locked gates, you will arrive at your first treasure chest. There are lots of these in every single chapter, but the first one that you find allows you to unlock your first trophy, Happy Hour. This is the first trophy in our platinum journey. Shortly after getting my first trophy, I ventured farther into the first chapter where I find my first elemental portal. Going through this portal with Spyro allows you to get your second trophy, Inside Power. At this elemental gate, I found a soul gem, a hat, as well as a story scroll as I progressed farther into the first chapter. Arriving towards the end of the first chapter, we come across a villager named Blobbers who informs us to get past the gate that we're looking at, we need to fight some Chompies, which we'll get another trophy from. Finally, arriving to the end of the first chapter and saving the king of the village grants us yet another trophy for completing chapter 1 and making our way further into the game. We now arrive at chapter 2, but we only got a couple of trophies towards the end of the chapter, so we're just gonna skip out on most of it. Upon putting on my Stump Smash Skylander, it gave me the trophy for equipping a hat, which seems to be a little bit bugged as I had hats on my other characters and it did not pop. I also got the other trophy for placing down my first Skylander, so I think these trophies were a little bit bugged, but they popped nonetheless. As a quick side note, so you don't get confused while watching the video, throughout the video and through my first playthrough, I'm going to be skipping multiple chapters and leaving out the ones that are basically filler, as there's no trophies that pop throughout them unless they are collection trophies, such as getting 10 soul gems or legendary treasures. In chapter 2, we end up meeting Callie, and she has 2 trophies that we are able to get, both of which are from her heroic challenges, which you can get from Skylanders that you've placed on the portal, each one having a single heroic challenge, but allowing you to play multiple with every single character that you own. After completing my first heroic challenge, I am awarded with yet another trophy, but we still have one more to go for heroic challenges, which I won't get until a little bit later. Skipping our way to chapter 4 and making it towards the end allows us to get the next trophy for claiming the air elemental source, one of many that we will get throughout the entire campaign. The last trophy that I acquired for day 1 was incredibly simple, and all you had to do was play one knockout match with a friend, which you could just plug in a second controller, in which case I used my PlayStation 5 controller, as you're able to on a PS3. After popping this last trophy, this concludes day 1 of playing and platinuming Skylanders Spyro's Adventure. On the second day, I immediately went for the second heroic challenge trophy, in which you needed to do 3 challenges with 1 Skylander, which at first I didn't realize, and I ended up playing 1 challenge with 3 Skylanders. I figured this out pretty quickly and got the next trophy. After completing the heroic challenge, I make my way back to the ruined islands where I meet Captain Flynn once again, and he explains to us that there's a fish down at the beach that we need to talk to. This will lead us into the next couple of chapters where we will eventually unlock another trophy for claiming the water elemental source. In Chapter 5, not much happens whatsoever, but I do unlock a trophy for claiming 10 hats from presents. I found this one inside of a fire elemental gate playing as Sunburn. As we make our way into Chapter 6, there isn't much of note in this chapter as I do not get any trophies. However, I do find collectibles such as soul gems and legendary treasures, as well as the story scrolls, which add up to the trophies over time. Heading into Chapter 7, it's actually a very important chapter as this leads into one of the first boss fights that we have with Chaos. We will see quite a few of these boss fights throughout the entire game, and there was a handful of trophies that we can get from them. However, I do not get these trophies on my first try when it comes to these boss fights, as I'm purely going through the story as progression to get all the story trophies first. Making our way into the first boss fight, Chaos tells us that the elemental source is his and that he will not be handing it over unless we fight his minions. Now, I was honestly surprised with these boss fights. They could actually be pretty difficult if you do not have high level Skylanders, which for me, I didn't reset any of my Skylanders as I really didn't want to, so I just played with Slam Bam and some other characters I had. These boss fights follow a pretty repetitive pattern, and you'll see this until the very end of the game up to the final fight. In this fight, he just spawns in 3 minions and then uses a spell in between each fight, which in this case he started using sharks, which these could be pretty difficult to not get hit by if you're using a pretty bulky character or one that cannot move fast. After fighting his pattern of minions and spells, we manage to survive and he finally gives up, eventually giving us the water elemental source and giving us our next trophy. The reason why you get these elemental sources while you're playing through the story mode is because you are building the core of light, which was destroyed when the darkness took over at the beginning of the game, and this is the whole premise of Spyro's adventure. The reason why I'm saying this now is because if anyone was wondering, a lot of that's going to be cut out, like these cutscenes that you're seeing right now, showing the restoration of the core of light. After obtaining the second elemental source, Hugo says he hears strange noises coming down from the beach, where a gate opens. We enter into this gate and we find a robot who needs oil. After we give the robot some oil, he comes back to life and explains that he can create pearls, when in reality, they're bombs. We use these bombs to unlock the next area. Once we go over to the wall and blow it up, we meet a mole named Diggs who explains to us how he was stuck at a Cyclops castle and that they're holding the next piece of the core of light as well as an elemental source. This proceeds to lead us into Chapter 8, showing us the Crystal Eye Castle, where there is a trophy we can get, but I do not achieve it until the end of the game, after I've completed the story mode. Now we make our way into Chapter 9 and unexpectedly there's a giant stone monster at the end of the level, which is actually housing the Earth Elemental Source. This boss fight really isn't difficult in any means, and I was able to finish it on my first try, allowing us to get the Earth Elemental Source and achieving our next trophy. Upon receiving the Earth Elemental Source, an Int comes out of the ground named Arbo. He explains to us that we need to get the Seeds of Life in order to get the next elemental source. If you haven't guessed this or you've never played this game before, most of the chapters consist of you collecting key components into getting your elemental sources, such as the Crystal Eye, Skeleton Key, and the Seeds of Life, as there are also a few more, but that's just to list a few. Not much happens in Chapter 10, but we also get another collection trophy for getting 10 Soul Gems. In Chapter 11, we get yet another collection trophy, with this one being getting 10 story scrolls. Making our way to the end of Chapter 11, we finally make it to another Chaos boss fight, this one being for the Life Elemental Source. The boss fight goes pretty much as expected, with the same repetitive nature as the first one, with his 3 minions and his spell. Only this time, his spell consists of insects with orbs following them, in which you need to destroy the insects to destroy the orbs. Once again, after defeating Chaos's 3 minions and his onslaught of spells, we finally get the trophy and the next elemental source. Once making it back to the ruined island, General Robot meets with us to explain how there is a gear inside of a heavily guarded warehouse. This gear is yet another item we need to fix the Core of Light, and it'll also help us achieve the next elemental source. We make our way into chapter 12, and again, not much happens in this chapter as this is one without an elemental source, but I do come across a trophy where it is chapter specific, in which case it's traversing through the minefield without landing on a single mine. I got this on my first try because it was incredibly easy. We're going to skip over chapter 13 as there is nothing noteworthy to talk about. In chapter 14, the final boss in the level is very similar to the one we saw in chapter 9, as it is not a chaos boss fight, but rather a giant tank with goblins in it. After destroying this goblin tank, we can receive the next elemental source. After getting the tech elemental source, you'll begin to see that the ruins has become darker. This is because the darkness is taking over the ruins, and we have to finish the Core of Light as soon as possible. General Robot and Hugo inform us to go back down to the beach as they heard strange noises. Heading down to the beach allows you to meet the next character, which will help us progress through the next chapters, T-Bone. We help T-Bone find the rest of his body in order to enter the crypt and go to the next chapters. Chapter 15 is unfortunately another level that didn't have any trophies pop within it, so I won't be going over it. Before we go any further, I need to show two trophies that I forgot to show towards the beginning of the video. One for me reaching level 10 with any character, and another for purchasing my first upgrade. This will lead back into where we are. The reason why I brought this back up is because my first upgrade was for Stump Smash, and now my last upgrade will be for Stump Smash, allowing me to get the last trophy for upgrading. Making our way into chapter 16, not much happens, but we do get our final collection trophy for finding our 10th legendary treasure. After claiming that trophy, we skip our way over to chapter 17, and oh brother was this level a doozy. Nothing of note really happens within this chapter until towards the end of the chapter where we go to the Chaos boss fight, where I encounter one of my first bugs throughout this playthrough. Upon arriving to the teleporter at the end of the level, we teleport into the boss room where we see Chaos giving his spiel about how he's going to summon his minions. But when the game finally lets the boss fight load, nothing happens. I tried swapping Skylanders off the portal to see if the bug would fix, and nothing worked. I even tried looking stuff up and I couldn't find anything of use. So this means I have to play through the chapter again. I make my way through the chapter once more and get to the boss fight again, and this boss fight was pretty easy. There's a trophy that you can get for dodging the lasers that are shown throughout the boss fight, but I did not get this on my first try, so we'll have to come back to it. Once again, beating another one of Chaos's boss fights rewards us with yet another elemental source, and that means we're gonna get another trophy. Once completing that chapter, you will see that some of the barriers that were around in the ruins have now disappeared, showing us a new train that we can use to access the next chapters. Because I have already gotten all of the collection trophies and I'm not going for any boss specific trophies until after the campaign, I'm going to be skipping out on these next couple of chapters because I want to go straight to the elemental source to get our next trophy. When making our way towards the end of chapter 19, we have to fight yet another Chaos boss fight, and this time it has to do with fire minions as well as fire spells. There's a trophy relating to using Gilgrunt's hose only when fighting these minions, and yet I was not able to pop this trophy while fighting the boss the first time. And when I did pop this trophy, lucky for me, not so lucky actually, my OBS was paused, so this was the only trophy out of every trophy I got that was not captured on footage, as my OBS was paused when I went to go take a break and I forgot to unpause it. Getting back on track, we finally defeat Chaos once more and get another elemental source, which allows us to get another trophy. After completing chapter 19, Captain Flynn informs us that there's a giant statue in the water within the ruins that has seemingly come back to life and may give us more information on where the last elemental source is. After making our way to the statue, we come to find out that it is a weapon master that was a part of the Archaean weapon master civilization. They have long been gone, but he explains to us that we can find the magic elemental source within their home. We skip chapter 20 and make our way into chapter 21, where we get a couple of trophies. One of the trophies we get in this chapter is the Ace Pilot, which can be obtained by destroying 30 robots and other enemies as you're controlling the Archaean robot. After we make it off the Archaean mech suit, we venture further into the level, killing enemies and activating 3 switches to finally get the magic elemental source. After receiving the magic elemental source, this will be the final one that we get throughout the entire story, and the campaign is coming to an end. But we're not done yet, as we have one chapter left where we finally get to face and confront Chaos. We make our way into chapter 22, and this was one of the worst chapters of this entire game. There are a few reasons why I really don't like this chapter, some of which being pretty normal, but one seems to only have happened to me, and of course with my luck, was a game-breaking bug. One of the issues I had with this chapter, and I also know that a lot of other people had an issue with this, was how slow these elevators are to make it to the 2 sections you have to go to, as well as the little lightning rods on the sides that constantly do damage. As you can see, I wasn't too good at it, but we'll be back here pretty soon. After finally making it through the very slow elevators, we eventually reach the end of the level, where we have to fight hordes of enemies, where the barrier will then come down and reveal the final elevator, allowing us to reach Chaos. Well, that's what's supposed to happen. Upon killing the final enemies and getting on to the last elevator, Eon tells us that we're ready to go to Chaos, but once we start going, the game freezes on the loading screen, and it stayed there for minutes. I sat there and waited, and nothing happened. I had to completely shut down my PlayStation 3. Upon completely restarting the game, I go back to Hugo, and I have to do the whole chapter again. With this in mind, I make my way back into chapter 22 and breeze through it as quickly as possible using Gilgrunt. And if you haven't noticed, about halfway through the playthrough, I did just start maining Gilgrunt, as he is incredibly strong with his upgrade path, which upgrades his power hose. After making our way through the rest of chapter 22, we can finally get back on the last elevator, allowing us to beat Chaos once and for all. We finally confront Chaos, and we can see that he's in this throne, and he tells us straight to our face that we are going to be fighting something that destroyed the Core of Light once and will do it again: the Hydra. Holy was I not prepared for this boss fight. I could not have seen how hard this boss fight was gonna be, especially compared to everything else that has happened during this game. Like the other boss fights, they are nowhere near as crazy as this final boss fight was. With this boss fight, you get 2 trophies, one for beating Chaos and beating the game, and one for beating Chaos with 1 Skylander only. Let's just say that did not happen on the first try. I ended up picking Trigger Happy for this final fight, but man, it was not a good idea. He is just not strong enough to kill these enemies, and I ended up dying. Continuing on further through the boss fight, I ended up using Gilgrunt, but even though he is incredibly strong, I still ended up dying with him too. I end up switching to Slam Bam after Gilgrunt died, but even then he wasn't strong enough to survive and ended up dying as well. As my last pick, I use Eruptor, and luckily, he was able to get through long enough to defeat Chaos. You'll notice that I'm using Drill Sergeant at the end, but that's because Eruptor died at the very end of the boss fight after defeating Chaos. Finally, after defeating Chaos and his Hydra, we make it to the end cutscene, where Chaos is sent to Earth and defeated once and for all. For now, at least. After making it through the entire game, you finally get your final trophy, the Savior, which is the last trophy for the story mode. We still have 9 trophies left to get, not including the Platinum, and we're just gonna speedrun through those very quickly. In Chapter 18, there's a trophy that we can obtain by mining all of the rocks throughout the entire level. To get it out of the way, next up we have the One for All trophy, which we make it back to the Chaos boss fight, and I breeze my way through it just by using Gill Grunt like I said. Heading over to Chapter 3, we get the trophy for getting 3 stars in any chapter, which I got in Chapter 3 by getting the Legendary Treasure. I make my way into Chapter 11 where I get the trophy for getting Stump Smash to throw out at least 5 of his acorns or seeds at the same time and then defeat him. Next, we make our way into Chapter 7 where we get the trophy for being eaten by the Leviathan 5 times. In Chapter 7 as well, we also get the trophy for dodging 30 sharks that are coming towards us. This is pretty easy to do as you just sit in the corner during the last phase of the fight, and you can get 30 if you don't get hit. Next, we head into Chapter 8 to the Crystal Eye Castle, where we have to dodge all of the rolling barrels that the Cyclopses drop down. We now head into Chapter 17 where we get the trophy for dodging all of the lasers that Chaos summons. And finally, we make it back to Chapter 11 to complete the trophy for using no rockets throughout the level, and at the very end of the level, completing it all the way through, we receive the last trophy, and that means we have achieved the Platinum. And with that, that is the end of platinuming Skylanders Spyro's Adventure. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to like and subscribe, and make sure to comment telling me what you liked about this video and what you didn't like. If you want to see more content like this, please tell me. I loved making this video. This is something I've been wanting to do for an incredibly long time, as I am a platinum hunter and I'm almost at 20 platinums, and this is something that I do in my free time. If this video gets the recognition that I'm hoping it does, I will be continuing this series, and the next video will be for Giants. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys later.